Come back to our final interview on News and Views this morning, and we are now going to be talking with someone about a very, very serious issue, and that is food security. Sulaimaan Patel is head of rural development and social investment at Agri SA Enterprises, and let's start off by sharing the information from the World Food Summit of 1996, which defined food security as existing when all people have access to sufficient, safe, nutritious food to meet their dietary needs for an active and healthy lifestyle at all times. So let's understand why not only South Africa, but the world over, we are seeing issues around food insecurity, a very serious issue, plaguing all of us. Sulaimaan Patel, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for having me.
Lovely to have you here. And this is a worrying situation, isn't it? And I mean, we can think of the countless of uh, issues why we find ourselves in this position. In South Africa, we could say state capture. Then, if we look at the problem globally, we could say the Ukraine war. Then we could blame COVID, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So let's start of the starting point being. If you want to respond to those comments, and I have a few questions for you, would you like to respond to my opening remarks?
Yes, thank you, Sister Julie. So I think in South Africa, we faced with many complex problems. To start off with, just if we look at the agricultural industry, it's quite split into the mega farmers or larger commercial farmers, and on the other end of the spectrum, we got the developmental farmers and the maybe smaller commercial farmers. And if we look at these two in sort of separate boxes, we realize that from a farming perspective, the major farmers play a very important role in terms of general food security in South Africa. However, if we look at the smaller communal and emerging farmers, they play a role in terms of food security and vitalizing rural and communal economies. So it is a very important topic that we need to keep an eye on in terms of everything that's happening in the world and food security in general of our country.
So, in your position as head of rural development and social investment at Agri Forum SA, where is your focus, Sulaimaan? You talk about emerging and commercial farmers. You also talk about the mega players. Um, Give us some insight as to what the farmers are currently feeling and going through. And I should imagine that question is really about the emerging farmers, because if they don't have the right backing, they're not going to survive. They're not going to survive at all.
Yeah. So just generally, if we take the agricultural industry, farmers are distressed and discouraged, and that's given that is because of a variety of reasons. Just to start off with, we have the inflated cost of diesel, which has a knock-on effect through the entire food and fiber value chain, from farming inputs through to productions, going right through the logistics value chain, ultimately results in a price increase for the end consumer. Piled onto that, we have the total collapse of the railway system, which could have combated the high diesel prices. Fertilizer costs are at the all-time high. Poor infrastructure continues to impede agricultural activities, especially when we look at the emerging farmer landscape. Road infrastructure, which is key to delivery and distribution of inputs and outputs to and from farms, is one of the most serious obstructions facing the sector. Now, if we look at the more developmental and emerging farmer situation, emerging farmers are at a point of frustration, and that is because they have little to no access to funding or credit. There's minimal interventions from the government side for the majority of emerging farmers. There's serious barriers to entry, especially when we look at the higher value crops like the macadamias and citrus sort of industries. Um, and this also leads to a huge market access problem for emerging farmers because it's very difficult for them to meet the minimum requirements to access the more formal markets, and just a general lack of access, even in terms of connectivity, in terms of access to reliable information and market pricing. So small scale farmers really are getting the bitter end of the stick in the current economy.
And yet, government keeps telling us that we know we have a huge unemployment situation in the country, and they're urging young people to go the agricultural route, go into farming, feed yourself, feed the people, make a career out of this. And if they're successful, it could be a very lucrative career. And yet, there isn't the support in place for them, as you've indicated, barriers to entry. Over and on top of that, we have the situation on the issue around a very important issue here is load shedding, how that impacts on emerging and rural farmers. Talk to us
Yeah.
about all of those issues.
Yeah. So maybe just coming to the comment you had about government assistance. There are interventions from government. One very credible body and one body that's really strived to assist developing farmers and young farmers is the Agri SA. I mean, the Agri SA has really played its part in upskilling the farmers. But then what next after that? After the upskilling, what are the opportunities coming from government side? And those are critical questions that need to be asked. In terms of load shedding, small scale farmers are the backbone of rural economies. Without those small scale farmers in rural economies, there will be a serious food security issue within those rural economies. Um, while some farmers might have the means to move off the grid, look at other options, wind and solar, etc., for the majority of small scale, small commercial farmers, those just aren't options for them, given the high cost associated with those type of technologies, as well as the theft and rural insecurity, because security is a major issue in rural areas. You have a lot of farmers complaining about theft of their solar panels, etc. Coupled with this, with the lack of electricity and during load shedding, a farm needs electricity to operate. Pumping
Absolutely.
stations, irrigation, cooling systems, steady water supply for irrigation, and this just hampers production on the farm. When there's not enough cooling systems in the cold storage areas, a lot of food goes to waste, which is has a very negative impact on the country's food security.
Absolutely. Okay, so Sulaiman, my final two very important questions are: how does Agri SA, along with Enterprises, assist the emerging farmers overcome these very serious problems that you've outlined? And then also, how does your projects benefit the emerging and impact food security in the long run? Not forgetting how COVID played its role in setting us 10 steps back or 100 steps back.
Thanks for that question. So, from an Agri SA and Agri SA Enterprises point of view, specifically with relevance to my office as Rural Development and Social Investment, we basically fund emerging farmers with coupled with comprehensive real-time mentorship. So we look for farmers that are already producing in the rural areas. They have a market, might be an informal market, but what we do is we build capacity on those projects in order to create employment for youth within the rural
Wow.
areas, in order to stimulate the rural economies. And this obviously coupled with funding from corporate foundations, as well as the assistance of Agri SA and other role players within the agricultural sector, help us achieve the capacity building projects that we go along.
And Alhamdulillah, that would encourage young people, unemployed people, to go into the farming sector, which is sorely needed in our country. And then hopefully we are not, and I'm talking long term, obviously, we're not dependent on overseas, like Ukraine, for example, for grain and so forth. So we never, if we can become self-sustaining, we won't find ourselves in the situation as we are in now. And finally, the inflated diesel prices. Don't farmers get some sort of a discount because they're in the agricultural sector?
For input cost, there is a rebate of some sort. However, I'm not too clued up in terms of the rebate on the taxes. Although the diesel is a zero-rated product, however, in terms of discount of fuel price, no, there's no discount as such in terms of the fuel price for diesel, especially in the input cost for farmers.
And the rebate, is it healthy enough? I was actually referring to a rebate. I used the wrong word there.
Yes. Um, I'm not in a position to comment on that. I'll have to obviously look at a few statistics and do some research as to whether the farmers are satisfied with those rebates and if it does make a large enough impact to their businesses.
Okay, so Sulaiman, for people watching and listening to us today, they now realize here is an opportunity. I've been unemployed, and we know we've got lots of graduates that are walking the streets, they're unemployed. Here's an opportunity to make a difference in my own life, in the life of my community. How do they then, get started? How do they approach you? What are the barriers to entry? How easy do you make it for them to get up and running? Very especially if they do not come from an agricultural background.
Mm. So I think the key thing is in the current space that we live in, we have access to unlimited amounts of information. And I would stress that the first place to start off is with research. Research what you want to do, um, research agriculture in general, understand where the opportunities lie, develop business plans, which us at Agri SA Enterprises and especially the Rural Development Division can help you develop your business plan.
Wow. Okay.
You can contact us via our website and we will get back to you.
Alhamdulillah, it's wonderful to hear that you would hold a new or an emerging farmer. You would probably hold their hands along the way because you don't want to see them fail. You want to grow this sector, and you want to grow it as rapidly as you can so that we in South Africa can become food secure. Great initiative. Wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.
Lots more to unpack, but inshallah in a future program. We
Definitely.
have come to the end of the show this morning. So, shukran to you, Sulaimaan Patel, Head of Rural Development and Social Investments at Agri SA Enterprises. Guys, those of you who have been complaining you don't have jobs, there's no jobs, here's a wonderful opportunity. Approach Agri SA and see if you guys can work together. Shukran. And till the next time, as always, salaam alaikum to you. It is 4 after 10 o'clock. Thank you indeed for being with me on the show this morning. Standing by is Mariam Makwanda with her lifestyle show. Do hope you're going to enjoy it. Till the next time from me, which is Monday morning, take care on the roads. Be aware there's a new subvariant of COVID. So go out and get yourself vaccinated if you're in the above 50 age group or if you suffer any comorbidity. And also a quick one, don't forget there's a wonderful initiative happening at the Coronation Community Hall this Saturday from 10 to 12. It's free health screening for the elderly people. So go out, volunteer, and take your elders along. Till the next time, as always, Assalamu alaikum and Khudafiz from me, Julie Ali.